Dave from Timber Time Outdoors. In this video, we're going to talk about the one-up bike rack, specifically why it's awesome for a Jeep Wrangler. Okay guys, this is the one-up bike rack. I can say with confidence, in the history of this channel, which is about 180 some videos of reviews of different things, this is my favorite, by far, best quality, most useful, simplest, most well-made, the list goes on. This is my favorite piece of outdoor gear, bar none. And so I'm going to talk about why. I'm going to cover two main points about it. Number one, what makes this thing so great? And number two, why is it so great for the Jeep Wrangler? So the Jeep Wrangler brings some special challenges. I'm guessing that's why you're watching this video. So I'm going to talk about why it works so well with the Jeep Wrangler as well. All right, first things first, why is this bike rack so superior over its competition? Why do I love it so much? Well, there's a variety of reasons. I'm going to start with the material. The material in my mind is far superior to anything that's out there, even, Quat and Thule. If you look at those bike racks, they're a mixture of materials from plastics. They might have some aluminum, a lot of steel, and they just simply don't hold up, especially where I live here in Wisconsin. If you use your bike rack year round, you're not, that bike rack's going to be wrecked after 1 year. This is all aluminum, and not only is it aluminum, it's really thick aluminum. And so I think that kind of speaks for itself. It's not going to corrode. It's really strong. It doesn't, shake or vibrate. That's one of the biggest problems with bike racks is they have a tendency to wiggle as you're going down the road, no matter how good your suspension is. They just shake the bike, they call it the death shake. They shake bikes to death. And this bike rack is super, super rigid. I'll kind of walk through some of that stuff, but I just want to say the number one reason I like this is the materials are far superior over its competition. Number two, it's the simplicity of it. And so you guys can probably see here, and I'll get you off the tripod in a minute, but it's really basic. It's really compact. To operate this thing, you lift a lever, you put your bike on here, and I'll demonstrate all that stuff, but that's it. You bring this down on the tire, and that's it. If you've had to deal with bike racks in the past of any other kind, some of them work on the same premise, but they're not this easy to adjust. We'll talk about, when we get the bikes up on here, we'll talk about adjustments and that kind of thing, but the simplicity of this thing is wonderful. So when you want to tilt it, they have some accessories to make that even easier, but just out of the standard process, you reach under here, you pull, and it tilts. And hopefully you heard that nice audible click and how rigid this is. I mean, it's just absolutely rock solid. So operation, adjustment, again, far superior over its competition, in my opinion. Okay, the next thing I like about this thing is that the way they offer it is, I'll just call it modular. And, everybody's needs for bikes are different. All the bikes are different. How many bikes you have is, up in the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. The way they sell it is kind of modular. And so you can kind of pick and choose what you need specifically for you. If you want just a very simple one tray bike rack, they make that. I happen to purchase 2 bikes. It's just my wife and I. 2 is great. If I wanted to take a third bike, which, I might be buying a third bike for myself or a second bike for myself, I may add a tray. You can bolt on another tray. I think the max is 4. If you go across their products, they have all kinds of different durability levels. And so it's a little bit confusing, I will say, on how many products they offer and all the accessories. But generally speaking, the modular way that they sell, once you kind of learn it and figure out what you want, is nice because it holds that cost down. Like, I think the single rack is only like $500 if you buy just the basic color and some of the basic things. You can quickly raise that price up, which I'll talk about later in the video. You can raise that price up by adding accessories because they have a ton of those too. But generally speaking, I love that modular, way that they configure these things. The next thing I like is the way that this allows for high clearance. So if you're an off-roader, so if you're a mountain bike person, many times you are taking your vehicle on a pretty sketchy road. Maybe it's not even a road, and you're trying to kind of get up to a camp area or whatever, and then you're going to do your mountain biking. And many of you probably had this happen to you, even in, say like a gas station that maybe has a steep ramp. As you go down, your vehicle goes down and your bikes drag on the ground. I guarantee you many of you have had that happen. Sometimes it's a catastrophe, sometimes it's just a scratch. But this has kind of a stepped approach. It's got a high clearance attitude to it, if you will. And as the bikes, protrude away from your vehicle, the trays get higher and higher so that you have that clearance as you're going over bumps or whatever. So I really do like that. I'm going to talk about, specifically why this is good on the Jeep in just a second, but that's one thing I like. So not only do you not scrape on the ground or rocks, but you also have some clearance between the bikes themselves, right? So that's one of the challenges to a good bike rack is when you get the bikes on there, they're always trying to fight each other. Handlebars are hitting seats, and this allows for more things to kind of clear each other and keep the bikes compact. So love that about the one-up bike rack. Okay, last few things about the rack that I like. I kind of talked about how it has a lot of clearance for the bikes, vertically with the trays being kind of stepped upward. But what I also like about this, and this is maybe just the design of this particular style, you have some adjustability left and right depending on where you put the wheels. Some of those, like the Thule that I'm going to show you later on in the video, my daughter's bike rack, which I really don't care for. It's got like a tray specifically to kind of cradle. I guess that's what you call it, a cradle for the wheel, and you're kind of fixed. You might have the ability to slide it a little bit, but this one's so quick. You take your wheel hold downs, I guess is what you call them. You roll your bike left and right, and you kind of situate it depending on where the other bike is. You cinch it down and you move on. So you have some left and right adjustment in addition to this up and down situation that's so nice about it. And then just in general, it packs up super small. I mentioned this already. Packs up really small. You can fold it up against the Jeep here, which I showed. And then just aesthetically, it's awesome. This comes in either a natural aluminum color or silver, or they have an anodized black, which they do charge for. It's also nice looking. So aesthetically, my opinion is this is a much nicer rack. I just love how rigid it is. It doesn't rattle, doesn't make any noises. So, okay, next let's talk about why it works so well with the Jeep Wrangler, because the Jeep has some very unique challenges. So let's get into that next. All right, guys, if you have a Jeep, you probably already know this. If you're thinking about a Jeep or you have a vehicle that's similar to this, here's the big issue with bike racks and really any vehicle that has a big tire on the back. The tire has a tendency to fight your bikes. In other words, the racks are too close. They're not designed for one of these things. They're too close to the vehicle, and your bikes are going to hit the tire. And so you end up doing some things to kind of compensate for that. There's some adapters, which I'll show. But that's issue number one, is the Jeep Wrangler always comes with a tire on the back. And number two, the way this tailgate opens, it basically swings into the bikes. Now, you're probably saying, well, most SUVs, the gate swings like this and that also swings into the bikes. That is true. But the fact that the tire's on here and it swings, it makes it even harder to clear the bikes. The one-up out of the box will tilt down. Now mine has been altered, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So mine does not tilt down, it only tilts up. But I did that for a specific reason, and it was to work better, in my opinion, with the Jeep Wrangler. Now, I can't open this gate with the bikes on. I'll get into that. But those are the challenges with the Jeep Wrangler, is the way the gate opens and this big old tire right here. All right, so let's talk about how you use this rack with the Jeep Wrangler and why it is so perfect. There's a couple ways to do it. Number one is you can buy one of these guys, okay? So this goes into a standard 2-inch receiver and then creates another 2-inch receiver. And essentially all it does is it gets you out past the tire. One Up sells one of these for a ridiculous amount of money. I think it's like $100 or something. A lot of your farm and fleet stores or any trailer hitch store will sell these for a lot less. I can't remember what I paid for this, but it wasn't $100, I guarantee you that. This works to some extent. However, what I don't like about it is you're just creating more points of rattle. And I know they make some clamps and these kinds of things that can reduce some of those vibrations that happen. But yes, this works, but you know, I just don't like how, you know, it gets you super far away from the vehicle, right? So now your bikes are way out here. They're going to be hitting bumps and going over, you know, they call it a moment arm. So you're basically going to be just shaking the crap out of your bikes, and they're going to get some wear and tear. So I don't love this idea, but it does work. I actually have this for a different reason. I don't use it with the bike rack. So what I did is I called One Up, and they actually make something for this. Well, they actually make it for when people use this bike rack on the front of a truck. Sometimes a truck has a receiver hitch on the front, and people want to put their bikes on the front of the vehicle. And they call it a reverse side plate. Okay, so this is the side plate. This is the standard side plate. And I'll put some images on the screen that kind of show this, but what the reverse side plate looks like, that is what's on here now. Essentially, they change these pivot points, and they kind of do it, they just reverse it. And basically what that does is it lowers the first tray instead of coming out of the vehicle upward like the standard one does. So on the Jeep Wrangler, when it comes out standard, it hits the tire. So this one goes down and then up, and it allows your bike to get away from the tire. And again, that was originally designed for someone who's driving down the road and they can't, you know, their headlights are hitting the bikes and they can't see over the bikes. They wanted to lower that bike. So that was what it was for, and it also works very, very well with the Jeep Wrangler. I put it on here. It's what I have on here now. Super good. So I'll start to show some of the bikes and how that works. But it's called the reverse side plate. When you order it, you do need to put some stuff in the instructions, and I highly recommend you just ask them about it. They'll email you. They're great customer service guys. Will tell you exactly what to do. It was $65. I believe they told me they would put it on for me, but they didn't. It was just in the box. So I don't know if there's a miscommunication there, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a couple bolts. I just put it on myself. Reverse side plate for the Jeep Wrangler is the way to go, in my opinion. Okay, quick demonstration of putting a couple bikes on with the Jeep Wrangler and what you need to do. And again, this rack has been changed, so it has the reversed side plates on it. So it's a little lower and then comes back up. So still plenty of clearance for off-roading and whatnot, but gets the bikes away from the tire. So bike number one is my wife's e-bike. This is a Trek Dual Sport, so pretty simple bike. It is fairly heavy because it's got the battery, so probably 35 pounds or so. It's a pretty heavy bike. So anyway, let's get this on here. Again, you just put the wheels in the tray. You sometimes have to adjust your pedal to avoid the tire. So I always put the pedal underneath the tire and then basically bring the cups here, or whatever I'm not sure what the terminology is, but and you just kind of push down on them and compress the tire. And you may have to shift the bike back and forth, but for now, let's just get the first bike on here. You can see here that I've got plenty of clearance with the tire. The pedal is underneath the tire, so it does have to be configured that way. Now, every bike's a little different, right? So if you have curly bars, it's possible those bars might hit the tire and you'd have to shift the bike to the side a little more, but I haven't had any problems so far with the two bikes that I have. So the second bike is my mountain bike, so let's put that on next. All right, here's my mountain bike. This happens to be a Salsa, full suspension, and most of you probably know this, but you want the handlebars to be opposite, so I'm gonna flip it around. This bike, oh, sorry about that. This bike isn't the lightest. It is a carbon bike, but being a mountain bike, it's probably half the weight of this, so I don't know, about 20 pounds or so maybe. So I like to put the heaviest bike closest to the vehicle to kind of reduce the stresses. And then the lighter bike next. So put this up in here. And here's where you got to kind of jockey some things around. So you can see I've already got an interference with the seat. See this here? So my seat looks like it's going to be in trouble. I just happen to have a dropper post. And so that's one thing I can do. It looks like her mirror is what's interfering. So I have some options. I can probably put the dropper post down, or I can just shift the bikes to the side. So I could move this bike that way, move this bike this way. Get this kind of close here. One thing that's happening right now is I've got this bike so far to the right that the tire's just barely on the tray. So I don't love this situation. I'm probably going to need to move this bike this way a little bit and then center the other bike. But you can see you have some options with, you know, moving seats around. Sometimes you got to take the seats off. You guys probably had to do that where, you know, the whole seat has to come out because you got interference. But, you know, that's just a quick demonstration of how you can get the bikes on here. I'll take you off the tripod and walk you around a little bit here. You can kind of see some of these things. And I apologize, the sun came out here. It makes for some not the best videos, but here's a good look at that side plate. And you can see how the trays are stacked. They kind of go up. So I did lose some clearance there. So in breakover angle, if I'm really an off-road guy, I might have some trouble, but I'll tell you what, if you're off-roading a lot, you probably got bigger tires than I do, suspension lift. And so you're gonna have, I think, plenty of clearance. Just depends what you're doing. But really do love this one-up bike rack. It's just clean. Clears the Jeep, and I have yet to find one that works with the Jeep. This one works really good. So you have a way to tighten the rattle. So that's why this one doesn't rattle, is this is actually a bolt. You put an Allen key in here and tighten it down, and basically it compresses into the hitch. I don't have a good way to show that to you. And then, if you can see, it comes with a lock. So we'll get into pricing in a minute, but this thing is not cheap, and you don't want it to get stolen. The one thing that it doesn't come with is a lock for your bikes. So you got to have something separate for that. I currently don't have anything, but I will be getting something. What else can I show you? Oh, yeah, so I'm not able to tilt this down. So if I want to get in the back, I can't. That's as far as I can go. Can't do it. That's I guess the biggest downside to the reverse side plate is you don't have the ability to tilt those bikes away from the vehicle. You know, with the Wrangler, that doesn't really matter because you're not going to be able to tilt it far enough because the tire swings away. With the vehicles where the tailgate swings up like this, that tilt feature is really good. So those of you that are watching this that don't have a Jeep, don't buy the reverse, side plates. You don't need them, and it'll work amazing for you. So Jeepers, reverse side plates, in my opinion, is a better way to go than that item. That item will extend you out more, and you probably have some tilt, and the wheel would, you know, you could get in there part way, I'm guessing. Now there's an expensive accessory that takes this entire rack and swings it way over to the side. I don't know. It's like so ridiculously expensive. It might be $1,000 by itself. I can't remember. I don't know. I just don't love all those hinge points and failure modes and whatnot. So clean, simple way to put bikes on a Jeep Wrangler. Okay, let's just briefly cover pricing. Covering pricing on a video is kind of silly in my opinion because prices change and these videos don't. But at the time of this filming, which is what, July 2026, I paid $880. That was with tax. There's no shipping. The reverse side plates, and I bought the 2-tray model. I think it's the heavy duty version. It was $880. You can pay less if you just get 1 tray. You can pay a lot more with more trays. You can accessorize this thing to no end. I'll just make one comment about their accessories. They're really good, but they're really expensive, and so just make sure you really want it. I was like, I can get by without it. I won't go into that. That's a whole nother video, I guess. But you can accessorize this thing like crazy. I have my daughter's Thule here, and I normally don't badmouth other products, but I just like this bike rack. It is ridiculously heavy. It's probably twice the weight. I mean, that is, okay, 100 pounds, I don't know. So you're already adding a bunch of stress to your suspension and whatnot, plus the bikes. It doesn't work very good in terms of, you know, adjustments. It's got a lot of plastic on it. And I guess my point here is there are a bunch of these, you know, Kuwait makes some good ones, but in comparison to this one, you're going to pay, oh, I don't know, you might save a hair on some of these cheaper ones, but you truly get what you pay for. So again, pricing's about $800 to $1,000. You can probably save yourself $150, maybe $200 on a cheaper one, but you'll be buying this one anyway. So that's pricing for you. So if you're watching this video a year from now, pricing's probably different. Okay, this video got way too long. Wrap this video up. One-up bike rack, #1 in my book in terms of bike racks and any product I've reviewed on this channel in 180 videos. And that is saying something because I've had some pretty cool stuff on this channel, in my opinion. Like, subscribe, send it to your friends, and remember everybody, keep it in the timber. Bye-bye.